This is the iPhone 13, or maybe the iPhone 14, or the iPhone 15. Well, all of them. Now, if you want to buy an iPhone within a budget during this year's Flipkart BBD or Amazon GIF sales, then the iPhone 13 would cost you around 35,000 rupees to around 37,000 rupees on Amazon most probably. The iPhone 14 would cost you around 38,000 rupees to 42,000 rupees on again Amazon mostly. And the iPhone 15 around 48,000 rupees to around 50,000 rupees again maybe on Flipkart or maybe on Amazon, but these prices are without any card discounts. So no matter wherever they end up on sale, the price difference between the iPhone 13 and 14 might be around 3 to 5,000 rupees if they go on sale. The difference between the iPhone 14 and 15 would be around 8 to 10,000 rupees. And when you compare it with the iPhone 13, the difference gets even bigger. So should you save up some money and get the iPhone 13 or 14 or spend some more to get the iPhone 15? Will it be worth it? Let's break it down in 5 simple points. And also I will be giving them marks where 2 is the highest and 0 being the lowest. Starting with the display. Now on papers the display is pretty much the same on all of them. Like all of them uses a compact 6.1 inch Super Retina XDR OLED Dolby certified display with almost the same display resolution and PPI with basically the same display protection. That's the ceramic shield class, even though it's a bit more tougher on the iPhone 15 and also a bit more sharper. But where the difference is in the display brightness, be it both in the high brightness which is around 800 nits for the iPhone 13 and 14, but around 1000 nits on the iPhone 15, and in HDR the iPhone 13 and 14 is capped out around 1200 nits, whereas the iPhone 15 stands around 2000 nits. So indoors it's not gonna be bothering you that much unless you're watching an HDR content, but if you're using your phone mostly outdoors, then the iPhone 15 gets an easy win. It is just more brighter. Plus you get a little better dynamic island on the iPhone 15 as compared to the big old notch on the iPhone 13 and 14. But they all are 60Hz, yeah.
It is what it is.
Now what about the performance? I mean, one of the biggest reasons a lot of people buys an iPhone is the raw performance you get, right? So how do these compare? Now both the iPhone 13 and 14 uses the same Apple A15 Bionic chipset, which is an hexa-core or 6-core processor clocked at around 3.23 GHz. But the iPhone 13 uses a 4-core GPU, whereas the iPhone 14 uses a 5-core GPU. So the iPhone 14 should perform a little better while gaming, and it does. But what about when compared to the iPhone 15? Well, it uses an Apple A16 chipset, which is also a hexa-core processor clocked at around 3.46 GHz, which also has a 5-core GPU, and also the core structure is a little better on the iPhone 15 compared to the other two. And clearly be it in normal day-to-day tasks, which even though all of them blazes through, but yeah, still the iPhone 15 will feel a little more smoother, and even in gaming, which again none of them are a slouch, but the iPhone 15 will give you better FPS stability and also a little less heating than the other two. So if you wanted an iPhone for gaming, then the iPhone 15 will definitely be better one for you, especially for long-term use case scenarios. One of the other reasons is also that the iPhone 13 uses 4 GB of RAM, while the iPhone 14 and 15 uses 6 GB of RAM with 128 GB as their base storage. Now what about the software? Well, the iPhone 13 came out of the box with iOS 15, and the iPhone 14 with iOS 16, and the iPhone 15, you guessed it right, came out with iOS 17. Now Apple never specifies how many updates an iPhone will get, but they do at least get around 6 to 7 years worth of upgrades, be it major or at least security updates. So according to this assumption, the iPhone 13 will get around 3 to 4 years worth of upgrades, the iPhone 14 will get around 4 to 5 years worth of upgrades, and the 15 will get around 5 to 6 years worth of upgrades. Now whether it be the major iOS updates and security or just the security, only Tim Cook knows. But the software experience is pretty much the same on all of these devices, as none of them would get any AI features, not that it matters much, and all of them is running on the Windows Vista, I mean the iOS 26 beta. So there's something to like about iPhones. All of them gets updated on the same time. But due to the better processor, in heavy uses the iPhone 15 would perform a bit more consistently, even while the phone heats up. Overall you will get more software updates on the iPhone 15, and for future use it would be more stable. Now the cameras are around the same for the iPhone 13 and 14 with dual 12 megapixel main and ultra wide angle camera with a 12 megapixel front camera. But the main camera of the iPhone 14 has a bigger sensor with autofocus in the front camera. So overall the iPhone 14 does perform better than the iPhone 13. Not by a huge margin, but it is better. But the iPhone 15 performs even better thanks to its new 48 megapixel main camera that can also act as a 2x digital zoom for better portrait shots, and it takes 24 megapixel shots as default as compared to only 12 megapixel on the other two. So you will get sharper photos on the iPhone 15 mostly. And rest is around the same like the 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera and the 12 megapixel autofocus front camera. And all of these devices can record up to 4K 60 FPS across all of its cameras, including camera switch from the rear cameras. Overall the iPhone 14 performs at least slightly better in terms of camera when compared to iPhone 13. Even in good lighting conditions, the differences be it in photos or videos would be minimal mostly, but the iPhone 15 performs better than the other two overall. Now in terms of battery capacity, the iPhone 13 and 14 is very similar to each other, which is around 3200 3240 mAh on the iPhone 13 and around 3279 mAh on the iPhone 14. The iPhone 15 is a bit ahead in terms of battery capacity, that's around 3349 mAh. So not a huge difference. And that is also sort of in real life. Like this test was done before the iOS 26 update, and as you can see, the iPhone 13 runs a little less than the iPhone 14 and the 14 runs a little less compared to the iPhone 15, just like the battery capacities. Now it will differ from person to person depending upon their uses, like if they're using their phones on Wi-Fi or 5G or a mixed users of both, whether they are a gamer or a casual user. Overall, there isn't a big battery difference between the iPhone 14 and 15, but yes, they do have a better battery life than the iPhone 13. Also, all of them mostly support 20 watts of fast charging. I mean, that isn't fast charging at all, but still, even if it's the slightest, but the iPhone 15 has a better battery life and a slight faster charging speed, especially if you can use anything more than the 20 watts charger. And here you can see the markings, and so overall the judgment is that the iPhone 15, if it's available around the expected pricing, then I think for future use cases, this one would be worth an extra 8 to 10,000 rupees if you can spend. Else you can go with the iPhone 14, it's also quite good even for 2025. And lastly, the iPhone 13 is mostly not recommended, especially when it has a lower chance of coming in this year's sales, be it in either on Amazon or on Flipkart. But if you really want a budget iPhone and can get it around 35,000 rupees, then for casual users it still won't be that bad of an option. Let me know what would you buy if you get them around the expected sale pricing mentioned. And watch this video for knowing more about the expected sale prices of the other iPhones and this one for which one you should be avoiding. Until the next one, this was Rideep. See you guys.